Well, Kathy and Wayne, I just want to thank you so very much for being on the same wavelength with us. Kathy started us off today, and what she was truly describing is the process of contacting and connecting with the subconscious or unconscious and allowing it to move forward from the old beliefs into new beliefs that serve better and serve us toward that which we really desire. And that is our talk today. Our message is entitled Repression. And interestingly, I've been reading this and following this for quite some time. And David said to me this week, isn't it interesting that we've never seen that before? And I said, oh, I've been following it for a long time. Maybe I needed it more than he did. But at any rate, in the glossary of the Science of Mind textbook, Ernest Holmes devotes over a page and a half to the word repression. Fascinating, yes? It must be pretty important if he thought it was that important to give that much writing to. And remember, that was 100 years ago or more. So he begins by writing this: the energy set in motion through the creative urge within us is the dynamic power of mind. When discussing the idea of repression, we are referring to the pressing down of thoughts or beliefs into the subconscious, which I call it the subconscious, some call it the unconscious. It's the same. Repression, according to Merriam-Webster, is a mental process by which distressing thoughts, memories, or impulses that may give rise to anxiety are excluded from consciousness and left to operate in the unconscious. However, that operation within the unconscious plays outwardly for us in our lives. So it's definitely worth taking a look at, because we can root it out, identify it, and transform our lives because of that process. We can move from fear to faith, hatred to love, chaos to peace, sickness to health, anger to joy, and poor to rich, just to name a few of the big ones. And I named quite a few because I'm hoping that we are able to tap into whatever is on your plate today so that you can work with it this week. We can loose the suppressed ideas that are stored within our subconscious, which inevitably allows us to enjoy a greater experience of freedom and goodness throughout our human adventure. Today, we take a deep dive into understanding more fully how our mind works and possible ways to release old belief systems that are trapped in our subconscious, causing us pain and creating habits that appear to limit us, frustrate us, and keep us from all the good that we truly desire to experience.
Something we don't always recognize or realize is how creative our thoughts can be, or I guess I should fix that, how creative our thoughts are. And once our creative faculty has functioned and manifested a new idea, it longs to be expressed through us and as us. But the thoughts that manifested are sometimes held under the radar by our overpowering thoughts of uncertainty and doubt. not really accepting the fact that they have come to fruition for us already. Those thoughts, by the way, are also creative, the thoughts of uncertainty and doubt, and develop powerful walls, creating a dichotomy of thought. We're caught between what we want to experience, what we actually have to experience, and what we believe and feel that we are capable of experiencing. And as Edwina Gaines says, what goes on in vagueness stays in vagueness. We have to decide what we really wish to believe. Otherwise, we're just bouncing back and forth or burying our greater potential under a layer of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And when we bury our emotions, we bury them alive. And they will rise to the surface one way or another. We have to decide what we really wish to experience. When we develop new potentials, but are afraid to let them come to fruition, there's a battle between the tiger that we've created or manifested and the tiger of uncertainty, and we have to decide which tiger to feed. In the meanwhile, there's a cat fight going on under the surface in our unconscious. We're keeping our greater potential caged up, and it will eventually either blossom or explode, or even worse, implode. The law doesn't distinguish, or more accurately, the law doesn't judge between positive thought and negative thoughts. It simply responds to our predominant thought energy. The key is to take control of our unconscious level of thought patterns, and fortunately, that takes place at the conscious level by holding our thoughts that are in alignment with our desires. There's a wonderful quote: "Don't let negative and toxic people rent space in your head. Raise the rent and kick them out." The same can be said for thought patterns. Don't let negative and toxic thought patterns rent space in your head. Raise the rent and kick them out. And how do we raise the rent? By raising our level of consciousness. Your thoughts and beliefs are valuable real estate. They actually outpicture in your conscious environment, and you get to experience what you think about. So we can't afford the luxury of a negative thought. In other words, if you don't like what you're experiencing, here's a new, unique idea or remedy to fix it. Change your thinking, change your life. You heard that one before? Not all that is held in unconscious awareness is intuited. Not all of it is a divine influence. It's important to discern what unconscious beliefs are founded in learned life experience and which are founded in divine influx. There is a huge difference. We're talking about nature and nurture here. What we were born with, what was ours that we came into this world with, and what we have experienced since we've been here in our life experiences. That's a serious challenge simply because, as I just said before, both are unconscious. How do we analyze unconscious influences? They're unconscious. How do we fix them? The same way we do quantum measurement. Okay, now don't worry, I'm not going to go into quantum science, but I do want to talk about this concept. There's something known as the problem of quantum measurement. And that is due to the fact that at the quantum level, at the very tiny level, all outside energy affects the outcome of an experiment. That includes thought energy and expectations and judgments that can literally determine the outcome of an experiment. So observation during the experiment is not allowed. Quantum measurement can only be done after the completion of the experiment, not during the experiment, because we meddle in it. We create an outside influence on the experiment. We observe outcomes and determine what causes the results that we see. Specific effects or specific results tend to point to specific causes. so we can follow things backwards to be able to understand what caused the results that we're seeing. It's a great Latin phrase, causa latae pis est notissima, which means that the causes are hidden, but the results are not well known. So we observe the results, then find the causes, determine how to make a change. Likewise, we observe that and determine the causes of our own conscious beliefs, unconscious beliefs, by looking at the conditions in our environment and in our life. We watch for patterns and then follow a path back to determine the causes of those patterns. Once we have uncovered the causes, we are a choice to either change the beliefs or not. It's really just that simple. But is it really simple? It's not easy, but it is a very simple idea. We make the change at the conscious level by affirming a new belief system that will allow the old offensive beliefs to fade away into nothingness from which they came. I believe that in my life I have kind of mastered that to some extent. I'm not always on top of the game, but I feel that through creating positive ideas and positive thoughts in my life, I actually am receiving positive experiences in my environment and the people that I surround myself with. But once in a while we bump into people who aren't on the same train, the same train of thought anyway. And so we run into people who have negative ideas and negative concepts, and they seem to rub us the wrong way. And I think it's because I'm not resonating to the negative energy. And I have to shift my thoughts as I'm listening into positive ideas about what is being said. Sometimes that takes some work. Sometimes that's a challenge. But the more we do it, the more we actually create habits of positive thought. And that's shifting both our conscious awareness and our unconscious awareness at the same time, because we are creating new ideas of how to deal with negative energy around us. In the Nag Hammadi scriptures, the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus says, if you don't bring forth what is within you, if you do bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. It's the same idea. Are you holding positive energy that you're bringing forth and letting the negative just hang out down there? It will come out. Your belief system is the literal foundation of your life. So are you standing on solid rock of truth and spiritual support? Or are there spots of uncertainty and quicksand under the surface? Use science and mind principles to build a solid foundation in your unconscious and live the life you have imagined in your conscious awareness. Release what is holding you back and step into your dreams. Stop repressing and start progressing.
Yeah, that was amazing. Wonderful. So David talked about the idea of analyzing our unconscious influences. And this topic of working into the subconscious, where our belief systems lie that are outpicturing in our lives, is not always something easily attained. And I believe that it's probably a lifetime of work looking at. I know I find sometimes I think, oh, that was a big one and life is so grand now. And then a few months later I'm like, oh, I thought I already had worked on all of that. And so things come up for us in life. That's human existence. He talked about that, analyzing our unconscious influences. So let's look now at some of those conditions that we experience, the ideas that are outpicturing in our lives. I lovingly share with you that I do consider myself an insider expert at understanding this idea of repression, having experienced what is commonly termed as repressed memories within the fields of psychology and psychiatry. It's possible that I may even have a greater understanding of the unconscious processing than the scientists, due to the fact that they are using data and experiments, and I am using experience that I have actually had. What I know to be true is that one can mentally travel back and forth between the conscious and subconscious. And in fact, I have experienced retrieval of old experiences while simultaneously communicating with doctors or counselors or therapists. They found it fascinating. However, they never encouraged the process. It seems that our scientific world of psychiatry and psychology believes that one can go insane if they travel too far into the subconscious. When I first said that out loud, David started chuckling quite loudly. I think he wondered where I was going with that, because we believe in one mind. And since we know there is one mind, I don't see how it's possible that it could be true that one could go insane from tapping into the subconscious. Now, tapping into the subconscious, getting something that the people around you don't really want you to get, and try to help you suppress it again, well, I can understand how that can drive you insane, because you lose a lot in life then. Or you appear to lose a lot in life. But the truth is, you really gain. So I tend to hold the opposite, in my opinion. The idea that the experience provides substantial information toward creating the life that you really desire. And we do it through the use of science of mind tools and other principled tools like meditation and visioning, sitting in the silence, affirmations. Ernest Holmes wrote, "When an emotion conflicts with the will and becomes suppressed or repressed, it returns to its subjective state, but remains active. It may remain in a subjective state for years, but eventually, unless neutralized, it will manifest." And when he's talking about subjective state, he's talking about the subconscious or unconscious. I was fortunate to be in a course at one point in my life called Understanding Yourself and Others. And they have a saying that was perhaps taken from a spiritual guru from India, Meher Baba. And it is, there is no such thing as confusion. Confusion is merely an unwillingness to look at a matter. Now, when you're in the crux of dealing with horrific experiences and you say, "I'm just so confused," and someone says to you, "There's no such thing as confusion, it's just you not wanting to look at it," I will say that for me and for David, our first experience was, "Oh, well, that might be what you think, but I'm out of here." The truth is, it is a very true statement, and it is the idea that there is no such thing as confusion is a coaching technique that's intended to assist one toward enlightenment, self-empowerment, and clarity. It's not the denying of a cognitive discomfort or uncertainty, but rather it's an opportunity to become mentally clear to manage your life direction. So I would like to offer a different word in the place of confusion for us, and the word is congestion. We can grant ourselves an excuse by saying, oh, I'm just too confused to even know what I'm thinking right now or to figure it out. And that is perfectly fine if that is where you are. You can stay there as long as you want, but confusion will not lead us forward. If we can reframe that idea to see it as congestion, my thoughts are all entangled. You know, some of us have had those really thin strands of gold in a necklace, and they get knots sometimes, and they get all knotted up. And the only way that you can get that knot out, or that congestion out of the strand, is by focusing on one strand. So when it's all knotted up, if you can pull just one strand out, the most important one to you in the moment, pull that one strand out and look at it, eventually everything else will loose and smooth out. So we can get too confused to figure out a situation, or we can look at the reality within the situation to see the congestion and move toward the greatest desire that we have within us and work with that. Unless we express our creative urge, it will congest within our mentality. Holmes wrote way back in 1926 or before, it is claimed that a large percentage of disease is caused by the suppression of some form of emotion. Any desire that remains unexpressed is his definition for emotion. And interestingly, Louise Hay, that Kathy had spoken about earlier, was in Science of Mind for years. Well, the statistics to his words 100 years later today are staggering. There's a high level of emotional suppression associated with 35% higher risk of all causes of mortality. That number jumps to 70% for cancer and cardiovascular disease. Research suggests that up to 70% of structural physical illnesses may be partly rooted in chronic, unexpressed emotional distress. And the lists go on and on if you Google and research this topic. Sufficient to say, we can change that for ourselves. We can only take so much before we must realize it's time to take a new avenue, a new path of expression. Paraphrasing Holmes, because I really wanted to touch on the many parts that he talked about. All irritation and agitation are mental in their cause. Fear is an intense emotion, and bottled up secretes poison into the system. Anger, vindictiveness, and kindred emotions arise from a feeling of inferiority. But remember, anything held in our thought can be thought anew. Thoughts of peace and calming can nullify. One idea is to find a scenario that works for you, such as imagining yourself comfortably seated by a gorgeous aquamarine Caribbean sea with a deep, rich blue sky, watching the waves flow gently at your feet in the soft white sand, and actually feel the gentle lapping of the waves send healing energy into your feet and upward through your entire body. This process is known in science of mind as impressing our desired thought into law. We are creating a scenario within our own imagination that looses those belief systems held in the unconscious so that we can move forward into the glory that we are intended to live. Holmes tells us if we were completely expressed, we would never become sick or unhappy. We know we desire to be well, to be happy, to be healthy, to be loved and loving. Engage in activities and surround yourself with people that express the best of you. And so it is.
So it is.